Hi, everyone. Welcome back. There are concepts in financial education that are crucial, concepts that everything else is built on, and that if a child misses them, every subsequent lesson sits on unstable ground. In teaching, we call these foundation concepts. Everything built on top is scaffolded, with each strengthening the next. Needs versus wants is one of those foundational concepts. It sounds simple. It's not simple. And the way most parents explain it is not working. But before I go on, this video is for parents that want to give their kids a jump start on their financial future and teaching that lasts, even when they're all grown up. I want to show you how to have the needs versus wants conversation in a way that doesn't just tell a child the definition, but makes them feel the difference. Because that is the whole point. A child who can define need and want has learned a vocabulary lesson. A child who has felt the difference in a real decision is developing financial judgment. It's a vocabulary lesson versus financial judgment. Those are different things. But why is it harder than it looks? I mean, the most common mistake parents and teachers make when introducing needs versus wants is starting with the definition. A need is something you must have to survive. A want is something you'd like to have, but don't have to have. That is technically correct and almost useless as a teaching tool. And here's why. Children experience almost everything they desire as a need. The new game, the specific snack, the shoes that all their friends are wearing. These feel genuinely necessary to a 9-year-old. Not because children are greedy or manipulative, but because the feeling of wanting something intensely is neurologically indistinguishable from the feeling of needing something urgently, especially in their developing brain. What we are actually teaching when we teach needs versus wants is not a vocabulary lesson. We're teaching children to observe their own internal states, to apply a framework to what they observe, and to make a decision that is informed by that framework rather than driven on impulse. That's a sophisticated executive function skill. No wonder the definition alone doesn't get us there. Wanting intensely and needing urgently are neurologically indistinguishable in a developing brain. So here's the conversation framework that I've watched work consistently in and out of classrooms across many years, many children, even my own. Step 1, don't define, discover. Instead of telling the child what a need is, ask them, if we had no money for the next 3 days, and I mean none, what would we absolutely have to have? Let them answer. Listen. What comes up is genuinely interesting. Step 2, use their answers. If a child says food and water and my house, those are correct, and you can affirm them. If a child says my phone, don't correct. Ask, what would happen if you didn't have your phone for 3 days? What specifically would go wrong? This is not a trick question. It's an inquiry. And the child's process of thinking it through is the lesson. Step 3, introduce the spectrum. Needs and wants are not two separate boxes. They're a spectrum. And where something sits on that spectrum depends on context. Water is always a need. A branded water bottle is usually a want. Clean clothing is a need. The specific pair of shoes everyone else has is often, but not always, a want. Teaching a child to think about where something sits on the spectrum rather than which box it belongs in is a much more powerful tool. Step 4, apply it to a real decision they're facing, not a hypothetical, a real one. You've got $12 in your spend jar. You want the game that costs $18, Is that a need or a want? If it's a want, which things could you try instead that might satisfy that desire? And which is worth saving towards? That conversation, applied to a real decision with real money, does more in 10 minutes than a month of worksheets. So needs and wants are not two separate boxes. They are a spectrum. The harder conversation, the part of this conversation that most resources skip, is the harder one. Some of what we call wants carry genuine social weight. The shoes everyone is wearing are, in a meaningful sense, a social need for a 10-year-old, because children operate within peer economies that have real stakes. Dismissing that as just a want is not only unhelpful, it's inaccurate. Social belonging matters, and children know it matters. The more sophisticated version of the needs versus wants conversation acknowledges this. I understand why you want these shoes. Being included matters, and what other people think of you matters to you right now. That's real. So here's the question. Is this specific item the only way to address that need? And is it the most important thing you could spend your money on right now, given everything else you're saving for? That conversation is respectful, it's honest, and financially productive. It doesn't dismiss the child's experience. It invites them to examine it, and it links their decision back to their own goals and values, not to a rule that you, the parent, has imposed. I've really enjoyed putting together this video for you, and I'd love to know, what is the hardest needs versus wants conversation your family has had? The one where you weren't sure how to answer, or where your child pushed back in a way that surprised you? Leave it below, or join our Facebook community. Real examples from real families are the most useful thing for everyone watching. The link is in the description below. Until next time, see you!